Welcome to the Babies in Business Podcast. Join your hosts, Rachel and Avram Gonzalez, real-life parents and business partners. Each week on Babies in Business, Rachel and Avram create a space for entrepreneurial parents to find their own way. They'll dive into insights on topics like leadership, efficiency, self-awareness, budgeting, and human psychology as they nurture their family and build their business. Here's your hosts, Avram and Rachel.
Hello and welcome to the Babies in Business Podcast. This is your host, Avram Gonzalez, joined by my fabulous wife and wonderful co-host, Miss Rachel Gonzalez. Rachel, how are you?
I'm doing well.
You asked me this a while ago when I got home, and not much has changed. But look, a lot can change with baby in the house. Today's topic is something that's really near and dear to our hearts, and something I think that's allowed us to find a lot of fulfillment and joy in our relationships, as well as in our business. Working with people, working with clients, working with team members, harmony is very important. And so today's topic is all about leading with your strengths and empowering your partners and team members. Rachel, why are you excited about this? I know there's some reasons why we were so pumped to share about this today.
Yeah, so many reasons, but the one that's just really awesome to me is how it has really strengthened our relationship, just in the sense of, if you're good at something, let that person do that thing that they're good at. And don't judge them for not being good at everything, because no one is good at everything. That's one of the things that just really I love about this topic.
I think we have a good story to kick this off and what it really means to let people live in their strengths. That's what we're going to rally around during this episode today. And what we're going to empower you to do is the same. This story, I think, is going to illustrate a lot. I didn't tell Rachel we're going to tell this one today. But before we talk about the test that changed our lives and how to really figure out what your strengths are, I want to give you an example of what it looks like when you're not living in your strength, when you're literally in the wrong seat. So Rachel and I'm not going to go into all the details of this one thing that we do and used to do for our advertising agency. But I'll tell you this. It involved getting in this tiny little Jeep that Rachel owns, driving around the city and taking photographs and of specific landmarks, okay? At this particular time, I was the one in the driver's seat, right? That's how we started. I started in the driver's seat.
No,
yes,
I was in the driver's seat. And you were the pilot.
That's what it was. That's what it was. Yes, I was the co-pilot. So I'm in the co-pilot. I've got the camera, and I got the clipboard, and I got the phone doing all the directions, and I am also telling Rachel where to drive.
It was terrible.
It was a mess. How grumpy was I?
I was grumpy. You were grumpy. We were all grumpy.
It was just like a real shit show, I'll just be honest. So nobody was happy about it, and it was taking us forever to do the thing, which made it worse.
But we are not normally grumpy with each other. So it should have been a clue a lot earlier in the day.
Yeah. So what do? We literally pulled over, and Rachel, let's be real. Upon Rachel's insistence, we pulled over. What do you think about me doing all this? I think I was just so caught up in that this should be my role navigating. You
came up, you were like, but I have to take the picture. Does that mean that I'm going to be driving and taking the pictures? And I'm like, yes, Abram, that's exactly what it means.
I was just so stuck on this, right? And so we pull over, we literally switch seats, and then we had a freaking blast afterwards.
It was in 10 minutes, and I was less cranky, you were less cranky. And it was a lot shorter day from then on.
It was like life lessons in this, and I think it's the perfect segue for the rest of our discussion here about leading with your strengths. I think first you have to learn what your strengths are. And we've had some great tools and mentors and things over the years, experiences that have taught us and showed us what our strengths are, but nothing quite as powerful as the Clifton Strengths Finder Test. This is one that we learned about from some friends and colleagues that we took that we found incredibly insightful. And I know that you had taken the test before and felt differently about it. What was it that you loved about Strengths?
I just love this test because, well, it is in the name, Strengths Finder. And it's not going to talk about all of the things that you're bad at and that you need to get better at. That's what I thought the other tests did was these are the things that you should improve on, but it didn't really highlight what you're good at. And so you leave those tests like, oh my gosh, I am in a terrible place now. So it's just really awful.
Or you learn about your personality a little bit, but then how does that fit into the workplace? Or
it doesn't. Not like this test. This test was truly amazing. And what's interesting about the story that was just told is that sometimes we need to be reminded of our strengths by somebody else because we just can't see it.
Man, that's great. I'm going to just leave that sentence there for that to sink in. Needs no more explanation. There was something else I was going to mention about... I thought you were going to say about the story was that the story just showed literally how opposite we were. That when we switched places, everything was so much better. That's actually what came out of our Strength Finder as well.
Oh, yeah. And I just have to say one more thing about that story.
Maybe we'll throw it in the show notes, the picture of my Strength Finder versus Rachel's, and you'll see how opposite they are.
So that day, it was so interesting that, so he was giving me directions, and he's like, oh, that was the turn back there. I'm like, Avram, we're going to be spending like way more miles. It's going to take way longer. You got to give it to me earlier, dude. And then when I give him directions, I'm like, okay, it's going to be the third left up here on the street, the third left. We're going to turn there, or it's going to be on your right. Or,
like crazy specific.
I'm going to give you like even landmarks. And it was very difficult. So I was driving and it was just awful. Terrible day. Great outcome. Lot learned.
Yes. So I think for examples, it might be helpful, maybe not. Nah, I don't know. Just say it might be helpful to share what our strengths were. But let me give you the recap, friends. Here's what our Strength Finder said. It said, Avram, you are great at coming up with the ideas and choosing the direction and like all of that. Okay.
And the future.
In the future. Okay. And then Rachel, you could give a shit about the future I say it just to be funny, but what you're really interested in is coming up with solutions and solving the problem and bringing it to an end.
Yes.
Like doing the thing.
And I have to say, before we took this test, both of us felt bad about not being good at everything. And if something was in our bucket to do, and we just didn't have a strength for it, we really beat ourselves up about that. So what it really taught us was don't apologize for not being good at something. And I learned what my strengths were. I didn't really know you can know what you're good at, but when you see it in a test, it's like, oh my gosh, yes, absolutely. That is exactly how I feel. I found it to be very true for myself.
Yeah, so if we were to break this down into 3 digestible chunks that you could take out of this episode, that would be the first one.
Yeah.
Don't apologize for not being good at something. And the reality is you just can't be good at it all.
Yeah.
I make a lot of jokes make video game metaphors and stuff that you're only born with so many points to your character, which is you, and they're going to be arranged a certain way. So you really have to lean into those strengths, and if you understand what yours are, what your partner's are, you don't apologize. Here's the thing. I felt guilty for a long time that I wouldn't finish projects the same way as other people. And I beat myself up about it. But here's the deal. Nobody comes up with ideas like I do.
That is fact.
Right? And so it's like we're all built to be different. So let's just lean into that. If we spend less time judging ourselves, we spend more time living in our strengths and being our brilliance.
Yeah.
Building a business while raising a family can be tough to juggle for any entrepreneur. Knowing where to focus and how to spend your limited time is critical to your success. That's why Babies in Business has produced and made available a fantastic audio resource for you. It's titled 5 Key Focus Areas to Build a Profitable Business Without Burnout. During this short training, Rachel and Avram peel back the curtain on their secrets to building a business that serves your family, your dreams, and beyond. To download your free copy of the 5 Key Focus Areas, Go to babiesandbiz.com/download. Again, that's babiesandbiz, biz.com/download to get your free copy. We hope you enjoy. Now, back to the podcast.
So the second thing we wanted to share with you was that what you think sucks, somebody else will love. Let's talk about that, Rach.
Yeah. I will just say it outright. I do the things that Avram thinks sucks. And I love them. I'm in heaven. I love admin side of the business. I love the numbers. I love the planning when it comes to numbers. But it's just so wonderful when you can really own that and have that conversation and feel free to. Sometimes we feel like we can't hire somebody or we can't ask someone to do something because we think that it sucks to them just as bad as it sucks to us. And that's not the case. Why would
I put them with that burden?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And so sometimes I have to remind Avram, we'll get away from delegating properly. There's something in Avram's on his plate that I'm not aware of. He hasn't told me about it because he feels like he's going to burden me. I'm like, Avram, just forward it to me. I'll get it done. He forwards it to me and it's done before it's forwarded.
I've been languishing over it for 2 weeks.
And if he would just get it to me, it would be done and then he wouldn't have to think about it anymore. I think it also teaches us expediency in don't wait too long to ask for help because you think someone else doesn't want to take that off.
Yeah. Man, if there's one thing that entrepreneurship and parenthood teaches you or shows you, it's like that hard look in the mirror, you know?
Absolutely.
And being confronted with things that maybe you've been feeling guilty about, not wanting to face, and it's another great lesson for that. So first one was don't apologize for being good at something. Second one was what you think sucks is something the other person might actually love. Again, there's a team member that you've got that can do the thing. There's a family member or a friend that can help you out with some baby stuff. There's just so many opportunities and possibilities. The last thing we wanted to do was like tell a little short story about something that I don't want to make it a thing, but it's like, here's the deal. In life, we have a lot of fixed roles. We have a lot of what you could even call gender roles, the things that traditionally one person or the other has done. And I want to talk about that for a second and show you something about our relationship that's just, I think, hilarious, but that we have to practice every day. And it piggybacks off the other stuff we talked about. And so, in short, Rachel is the Tetris champion, okay? She's also the one that's like very good and very fast at stuff. Before the baby was born, she was so fast. She's still fast. But she was moving at such a speed that I kid you not, I would hear her hit the walls from time to time because she would turn a corner too quick in the house.
It's showering and he'd be like, Rach, where get that bruise?
She like ran into stuff because she's moving so fast. So I think traditionally people would look at it and say, okay, you're getting ready to leave the house. What should dad do? Dad should go get all of this stuff, right? Dad should go get all the stuff while mom comforts baby.
And mom needs to get mad because dad isn't doing it fast enough or good enough or getting all the things. Not that it's that way, but sometimes it feels that way.
Yeah, correct. And if there's one thing that just gets me pretty flustered, it's being under pressure, what feels like timed, and I just don't do good with it. So what we did is the same. We just think back to the Jeep thing all the time. We just flip the roles, got the baby, and suddenly we're in the car and we're on the way. And that's what it's like to live in and lead with and lean into your strengths. Life's better. The thing is, I think we spend a lot of time trying to decide what is even.
Yeah.
And what is equal.
Or having the word should. I should be able to do this, or you should be able to do that. Mm-hmm. Instead of being like, okay, what works for us?
You have to be pragmatic, and I think that's the piece that comes out of all of this. It's like, do you want to survive the trials of running a business and having a newborn baby? Yes, of course you do. In parenting, yes, of course you do. Well, there are certain things that are going to help you get there. And sometimes it's like dropping your pride or the guilt, or we've talked about so many different things today that are just getting in your way of living this life that's really possible when you lead with your strengths.
And I just think that this test has helped us to really just see each other for who we are, like through our strengths, instead of, oh my gosh, Abram, you just have so many weaknesses. Well, we love each other despite our weaknesses, despite all these different things. And it's not even a chore to love each other. But sometimes when we focus on, not even sometimes, when we focus on strengths, then we're able to really show up more genuinely as ourselves and to love our partner as genuinely as we would like to, instead of having resentment because we have expectations that haven't been met, because we have unrealistic expectations of our spouses that, like you, running around getting things ready for the car to get us out the door. Unrealistic expectation to think that you could do it or would be happy to do it and have the same demeanor as me when it's done. Just because it's not your strength. And that's okay.
I think of no better place than to wrap things up on today's episode. Very profound words. If you like today's episode, and if you haven't already, gosh, what are you waiting for? Just subscribe already, darn it. Leave us a review on iTunes so more people can find out about the podcast, and share it with a friend. Wouldn't that be cool? More people at the Babies in Business podcast party. Woo! Hey, we're coming soon with some new episodes. If you got suggestions for topics, please send them our way. Connect with us online at our website, babiesinbiz.com. On social media, you can find us on all the major platforms. Check out the show notes. We're going to copy some of those hilarious findings we talked about today from the episode. You can find all that stuff at our website. We'll catch you on the flip side. Have a good one.
Have a great one.
Thanks for tuning in to this week's episode of the Babies in Business podcast. Who do you know that would benefit from hearing this episode? Share it with them and post about it on social media. You can find the show notes for this episode, free downloads, and connect with the rest of the community at babiesandbiz.com. We'll see you next time.